Here in France, it was Parliament that legalized gay marriage. In the US, the Supreme Court may have the final word soon. But of all nations, Ireland could become the first to approve gay marriage by referendum, going directly to the people. Friday's vote, seen as pitting the secular-minded children of the so-called Celtic Tiger years of growth against the established power of the Catholic Church. Polls suggest Prime Minister Enda Kenny was right to throw his full weight behind the yes vote. But polls can be wrong. This is, after all, a nation where abortion is still illegal. We're going to see what it all says about today's Ireland, coming out of a brutal recession, about gay marriage, of course, and more broadly, about the institution of matrimony, how it's holding up in these changing times. Today in the France 24 debate, will Ireland say I do to gay marriage? And with us, Father Aidan Troy, parish priest here at St. Joseph's Church, Catholic Church here in Paris, and Irish, of course. Joining us as well, Nathalie Saban, who teaches at the Sorbonne Nouvelle, Paris 3 University. You teach Irish civilization, and most notably, your focus is on institutions. And we're pleased to welcome back as well Bruno Verken of France's Christian Democratic Party. Welcome back to the show, sir. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. The vote's Friday, with reports of many returning home to cast their ballots. Pollsters say the size of the youth vote will ultimately tip the scales. Lucy Proven has more.
Give me a yes!
These campaigners may well soon get what they're asking for.
We are a better people, we are a better society when equal dignity and equal standing before the law is there for everybody.
Recent opinion polls suggest around 60% of Irish people would vote yes to gay marriage on Friday.
The reason we're, I suppose, supporting the yes vote is just so that people have equality, and we should all be able to marry who we love, I think, without distinction.
The referendum campaign Equality Now is supported by all political parties. The Prime Minister, too, was on the campaign trail.
It is upsetting, you know?
That's why
because I'm being discriminated by who I love and who I am.
But it's not discrimination, say the No campaign.
This is a radical redefinition of marriage, and we really believe that that will undermine that institution of marriage and that it will change it in a way that's not good for society.
Ireland is a traditionally Catholic country, but only 35% of people in a recent poll said they would look to the church for how to vote.
The Catholic Church is not remotely as powerful as it was in previous times. If you consider what's happened to the Catholic Church over the last 30 years, an awful lot of its credibility has been lost.
Homosexuality was only decriminalised in Ireland in 1993. 22 years later, will the referendum on gay marriage have politicians and the people singing from the same hymn sheet?
All right, Father Aidan Troy, by the way, I know the bishops have come out firmly for the no vote, but I've seen that there are priests who are in favour of the yes vote.
There are priests, there are religious sisters, and there's obviously a lot of in the street lay Catholics. A number of fairly high-profile priests have declared that they're going to vote yes to the referendum. The bishops as a whole, I read the bishop's statement, and then individual bishops like Archbishop Dermot Martin in Dublin has been quite engaged in this in recent times. Although, interestingly enough, he said, I'm going to vote no, but with a heavy heart, because a no sounds so negative. Whereas what I want to say is yes to marriage, and no, I'm not against people who are of the same sex, who are in love, and who want to live their lives together. But he says to put that into the Constitution has consequences beyond anything that we have yet worked out. Because you see, as you rightly said there, and it was said, that there has been no preliminary green paper, white paper normally you would have before a piece of legislation comes. And with all the political parties lining up together, which is absolutely their right, with a Catholic Church that's on the ground after all the scandals, there hasn't been any way in which to put your head above the parapet and say, I'm with you, my gay friends, but I cannot say that Ireland is the best country in the world for the first time to go straight into the Constitution with this. So that's where I would see the difficulty, and that's where I would see that maybe something like this debate is very important, to be able to tease out a little bit more of what others might see Ireland is doing at this time.
Nathalie Seban, there's an important point in all this before we delve into who's right and who's wrong. In Ireland, weddings take place in a church. I have friends in Ireland who had a civil wedding. They said it was almost seedy because if you decide not to get married in a church, it's less than underwhelming, and it's a sort of a bureaucratic and most people do get married in church. So the constitutional consequences of this will be, of course, that where would you celebrate these weddings? Is I suppose one of the questions.
Yeah, well, it is an amendment on civil marriage. Not, religion is not involved there. And the important thing to say, I think, is that this constitutional change was part of a series of proposals put forward by the Constitutional Convention that was set up by the Fine Gael Labour coalition in 2011. They come up with 18 recommendations, and the government eventually decided there were supposed to be 18 referenda. But at the end of the day, Enda Kenny and his government decided to carry out only two. One of them is the same-sex marriage. The idea, from a technical point of view, it wouldn't have been necessary to have a referendum because... And that is going to be very complicated because in the Constitution, Article 42 of the Constitution, marriage is sacred, but there is nothing that says that marriage has to be between a man and a woman. Of course, people, and especially in 1937, when the Constitution was drafted by Enda Valera, it was interpreted as being, of course, an heterosexual marriage. But from a technical point of view, going through Parliament or through the courts could have been necessary. So that is the reason why now the government was a bit shy about all this, and they decided to put it to the people.
All right, so the Irish who we've seen in the past have referendums when there's big issues where other European nations don't. One reaction on Twitter: Irish gay couples should not have to leave their country to be married. Your reaction to that, Father Troy?
Yeah, I quite appreciate that, and yet I know people, gay couples who've been living years together with children who have civil partnership, and I know this is like a red rag to a bull, probably to the person who sent that in, but there is nothing to say that a couple who love each other, who want to be together, cannot actually have everything except the guarantees that are in the Constitution for marriage. I mean, don't forget, when the couple that were married in Canada tested this in the court in 2006, this really sparked it to say, should you have to leave your own country? I don't want to introduce something that I would not want to get into. It's like, should you have to leave your own country to have an abortion? But if you believe somewhere fundamentally in your heart that you're not asking anybody to leave the country, all you're doing is to say that we come out of a certain tradition that, as has already been said, takes marriage to be between a man and a woman. Now, I can't exonerate myself and say, I don't believe in that. Of course I do. As a Christian and as a Bible-reading person, I do. But equally, I never knew when I was growing up in Ireland, gay was a happy person. I've been on a strict, very severe learning course, which now I know there are people who love each other, who make brilliant parents, who actually contribute to society enormously. But I'm not sure that we're doing marriage any favours by giving it the title of marriage.
And are you surprised, of all the nations on earth, that Ireland is the first one to have a referendum on this?
If I wanted to get myself into a position where I could never go back to Ireland, I could answer that very, very truthfully to you. But I'm not going to do that because someday I do want to go back to Ireland. But no, it doesn't surprise me. In the present atmosphere, that was pushing an open door politically.
And also the Irish Constitution says that every time you want to amend something that is in the Constitution, you have to go through a referendum.
Bruno Verken, would you have liked to have seen a referendum here in France?
Sure. It would have been an even greater occasion to put all the stakes related to gay marriage on the table. I'm obviously not in favor of gay marriage, though I understand the personal situation, but I don't think marriage is only there to celebrate love. Marriage is there to put a framework to welcome children and to protect them when things go wrong. And it's the reason why marriage was institutionalized and reinforced in the French Code Civil. In France, you are obliged to be married in the by the state. Administration, by the state. I think in France a referendum would have been an even greater opportunity, though the debate existed in France and has been of I would say high intensity.
How do you compare it to the debate that you're witnessing from here across the channel in Ireland?
I have the feeling that the debate in France has been stronger.
Stronger, you mean more impassioned?
More impassioned, and also pushing the consequences of gay marriage, because all the arguments I heard on the broadcast were about equality, happiness, and so on, the right to be happy. But if you push the reasoning up to the little by little, we now see clearly that all this is leading to surrogate mothers, eventually. First through the medically assisted procreation, and this opens to a brave new world that has been described by Aldous Huxley many years ago, in the last century already. And it's because when you mention that it's very difficult to leave one's country to get married, and you don't want that, but in the future we will have the same argument. Why should I leave my country to have the right to have a baby? And I will go in a country, in Thailand, I will go in India, I will in Nigeria to buy a children to a surrogate mother.
All right, Nathalie Seban, it's
going to be some argument.
It's been what, 2 years since the French legalized gay marriage. Do you see it as opening this Pandora's box to undermine the family?
Well, of course, it was bound to come up in that debate, and I perfectly understand that people can be worried about adoption, about surrogacy. The thing I fail to understand, though, is why it would be different in the case of a heterosexual marriage and the case of a gay marriage. That's my main issue. And it was interesting. I was reading an article in the Irish Times, and the Minister for Justice, Francis Fitzgerald, who put forward the bill in the Dáil, was actually saying that the Marriage Equality Bill was a tribute to the importance of marriage, and that if people in Ireland truly believed in marriage, then they should support same-sex marriage. And Health Minister Leo Varadkar, who actually did his coming out recently as a gay person, insisted on the fact that the bill was not about gay marriage, but about equal marriage. So the whole debate is on, as we could see in that program, it's about equality and marriage.
All right, we have with us, he should have been with us here on set, but Paddy Sherlock has a gig tonight. Musician Paddy Sherlock, thank you for joining us. First of all, tell us where you are and what you'll be playing.
I'm at the Bastille tonight. I'm playing at the Chapelle des Lombards with Pepper Island. So I couldn't make it to the program this evening, but I'm glad you called me because I wanted to talk. I wanted to express something.
All right, so the Chapelle des Lombards, famous for its jazz music.
Yes.
Paddy Sherlock, which side do you support in this argument?
I have to say I support equality, absolutely. And I don't live in Ireland anymore, so I don't have a vote. But having come from Ireland and thinking about the people I know who live in Ireland still, I think it is a gift to give those people equality, give everybody equality. That's all the referendum is about. It's not about surrogacy. It's not about adoption. I don't have to be married to adopt at all. I don't have to be married to go and get a surrogate baby if I want to, whether I'm heterosexual, homosexual. So all that is red herrings. Tomorrow the people vote about, do they believe in equality for everybody?
Father Troy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear what Paddy's saying. It's a very convincing argument. There's no doubt about it. I think we're probably agreeing on the conclusion. I think we're starting from different points, and I think if you start from where I'm starting from, I want the same for gay people. But I go back to the point that I don't think putting it as marriage comparable to heterosexual marriage is necessarily going to advance the whole thing at terrible, the whole issue of gay people at terrible distance. I still think everyone can live their different lives because they are different. There is no use in me saying that a heterosexual marriage and a marriage, and I know people in both situations are exactly the same. They're not.
Nathalie Seban, on that point?
No, I perfectly understand what Father Troy is saying, and I perfectly understand that this referendum and what it carries challenges the faith of many Irish Catholics. It was the same in France, probably the same in Spain and in many other countries. I'm just saying it from a more legal perspective, constitutional perspective, giving people equal rights in terms of what they're able to do, moving a step forward from civil partnership, and probably also acknowledging the existence of the gay community in Ireland. I'm not saying that it's been more stigmatized in Ireland than in any other country, but what is sure, and I don't think I'm wrong, is because of the importance of the Catholic Church in Ireland, it has probably been more difficult for them to actually come out and live as couples, which this bill might give them the opportunity to do.
Paddy Sherlock, how do you explain on that point how a country where abortion is still illegal may vote yes to gay marriage?
Because I hope that sometime in the near future they might vote for rights about abortion as well. The country is growing, the country is modernizing. I just want to go back to what the previous speaker said about Irish gay people not being discriminated against. When I was young, there was a young man beaten to death in Fairview Park because he was gay in Dublin. Okay, there was gay bashing up to death. So if that isn't repression, and if that isn't prejudice, then what is? So here we are 30 years later. We can pass this law. I don't think that the no side are homophobic, but I think that gay people in Ireland, about 10% of the population, especially the young people, perceive that a no vote would be homophobic. Whether the people who are voting no like that or not, that's what the perception is. They will feel attacked. I don't see why they can't be allowed to marry, to have the same rights. Equal means equal. If you take somebody's equality away, that means that further down the line, you someday might be in a minority and your equality be taken away. So it's 10% of the population. I don't see. I live with somebody for 24 years. I have 2 grown-up children. I'm not married. We never were married. I don't see what the problem is. People who want to get married should be allowed to get married. People who don't want to get married don't have to get married. People who want to take a sacrament of marriage in a church should be entitled to, as long as they adhere to the rules of that church. So it shouldn't be exclusive. It should be inclusive. It should be inclusive for everybody.
All right, Ireland and its relationship with the church. We're going to pick up on that point when we come back. You're watching The France 24 Debate.